Number 7, Balogun Compound. 3 years in London, and Sola came back to find a strange woman sleeping in his bed. Not metaphorically, literally. Her sewing machine was where his television used to be. Her apprentice was curled on his old mattress like she owned the floor, and the walls smelled like starch and Omo instead of the brute cologne he'd left behind. Someone had even painted the door a different color. Yellow. His door was never yellow. He stood in the entrance of number 7, Balogun Street, Mushin, with one small suitcase and 3 years of London weather still in his joints, and he thought, this is a joke. It was not a joke. The compound had not changed. That was the thing about these places. They absorbed whatever happened and kept moving. 17 families, 1 borehole, 2 toilets, 3 generators between them, none of which agreed on a schedule. The mango tree in the center had split one of its roots further through the concrete. The zinc fence on the eastern side was still leaning like a tired man. Mama Chukwu's acra still hit your nose before your eyes opened. But Sola's room, room 6, the one his father had died in, the one his mother had cried in, the one that was legally, morally, spiritually his, now belonged to a seamstress named Funke who had moved in 9 months ago and paid her rent on time. He knocked. She answered. She looked at him the way a woman looks at a problem she has no patience for. "Not my room," Sola said. "Not your father room," Funke replied. Asterisk Edon die. Asterisk God rest him. She began to close the door. He put his hand on the frame. "I have the original tenancy agreement. Landlord Opielu has my money for this month." They stared at each other across the threshold like two people who both understood exactly what this was, not just a room, but a war that Lagos had been fighting since the first person built a wall next to another person's wall and called it civilization. By the time the sun reached the middle of the sky, the compound had arranged itself, not conspicuously. Nobody called a meeting, but Mama Chukwu was sweeping an area she had already swept. Baba Ralph had paused his Quran recitation. 3 children had forgotten entirely that they were playing. The compound listened the way only a compound can, through walls, through curtain gaps, through the practiced stillness of people who have learned that other people's emergencies are also entertainment. Baba Tajuddin materialized at his doorway, arms folded. "The boy has a point," he said to nobody in particular. "Blood carries more weight than a receipt." "Blood doesn't pay Nipa bill," said Mama Chukwu, without stopping her sweeping. The compound murmured. Funke's apprentice, a small girl named Titi, 14, from Ekiti, watched all of this from behind the sewing machine with the unblinking eyes of someone cataloging information for future use. She had been in Lagos 7 months. She had already learned the most important rule. In a compound, silence is currency. Spend it wisely. Landlord Opielu called a meeting for Saturday under the mango tree. Until then, Sola had nowhere to sleep. Mama Chukwu offered him her son's old room. Her son was in Abuja now, doing something with someone that she described only as government work, with a tone that meant she was not asking questions. The room smelled like mothballs and old ambition. Sola lay on the narrow bed that evening, staring at the ceiling, listening to the compound breathe. It was not like London quiet. London quiet was absence, the hum of a city pretending nobody was home. Compound quiet was full. It had texture. He could hear Funke's sewing machine running past 11. He could hear a radio 2 rooms, overplaying Fuji music, at a volume that suggested the owner had settled a long argument with their own hearing. He could hear, somewhere beyond the zinc fence, the street conducting its own permanent business, generators, Okada engines, someone selling something at the top of their lungs because Lagos had decided long ago that subtlety was a foreign import. He had forgotten this. 3 years had sanded it down into a vague, warm feeling he'd called home whenever a British person asked him where he was from. But the real thing, the actual weight of it, hit him now like a hand on the chest. He had not come back because London was bad. He had come back because something had gone wrong there. Something he hadn't told anyone. Saturday arrived the way Saturdays in a compound always do, loudly and without warning. Landlord Opilu sat under the mango tree in his Igbada like a man who had been born specifically to arbitrate. 17 families became 17 opinions. The meeting about Sola's room became, within 20 minutes, a meeting about Opilu's maintenance failures, then about the broken borehole pump that had been broken since February, then somehow about something Baba Tajuddin's wife had said to Mama Chaku in 2019, then back, reluctantly, to Sola. The boy has rights, Opilu said finally. His father was a foundation tenant. Foundation tenant no mean free tenant, Funke said. She had dressed for this meeting like it was a court appearance. Her geli was precise. Her voice was steady. She had receipts, actual paper receipts, in a plastic folder. I paid. I have proof. I improved that room with my own money. New louvers. New ceiling fan. You want to pay me back for that before you send me out. The compound looked at Sola. He had no receipts. He had a feeling and his father's name and a document that was dated 7 years ago. I'll pay back the fan, he said, and the louvers, whatever it cost. You just came from London, Funke said, and the compound heard the accusation inside that sentence. You left, we stayed. Now you want to reclaim what you abandoned. How many months you think London makes you? The mango tree had no answer. Neither did Sola. He was sitting on an overturned bucket near the fence when Titi appeared. She did not say anything. She set a plate on the ground beside him, jollof rice, 2 fried plantains, a small piece of fish, and looked at him with eyes that had no pity in them but also no cruelty. Just recognition. The way one displaced person recognizes another. Then she walked back inside. He stared at the plate for a long time. Later he would learn that she had used her own lunch money to buy the fish. He would not learn this from her. That night, after the compound had folded itself into its loud version of sleep, Sola sat outside room 6, not to confront anyone, just to sit near something that had been his father's. The door was closed. Inside, he could hear Titi's light breathing and the low murmur of Funke talking on the phone to someone, her voice too quiet to make out words, but the tone of it, tired, careful, the voice of a person managing more than they were showing, was a tone he recognized. He had used that voice in London. He pulled out his phone. There was a message he hadn't answered in 3 weeks, from a number with a +44 country code. He stared at it. He put the phone back in his pocket. Behind the door, Funke went quiet. A baby in room 9 started to cry and stopped. Somewhere on the roof, 2 teenagers laughed at something they would never explain to anyone. The compound settled into its nighttime self, this republic of walls, this city inside a city, holding everyone who had nowhere else to be. Sola closed his eyes. He thought about London, about what he had left there, about the message on his phone. about the fact that whoever sent it had his new Lagos address. So, if a stranger showed up at number 7 asking for Sola, whose side would the compound take? Drop your answer below. And if this compound reminds you of somewhere you grew up, tag that person. They know exactly which neighbor is Mama Chakwu.